Xin chào. Good morning, Vietnam. Or good morning from Vietnam. It is Indy, Atticus, coming at you. It is early, it is bright, and I have a little bit of a headache coming on. So if you see me put on the sunglasses, it's not me trying to look cool. It's me simply just trying to deal with the pressure headache. I'll try though without the glasses at first, but if it gets too bad, we'll put the glasses on. So I wanted to do a video on the topic of dating a Vietnamese citizen. So dating a Vietnamese girl. And I am not going to admit, or I'm not going to either say or deny my personal situation, if I am, if I'm not, if I have. I'm just going to say somebody I know. We'll just leave it at that. I'm very private about my life when it comes to things like that, so I don't really like to put stuff like that on YouTube. But how many years have I been here in Vietnam? It might be safe to assume that maybe I've tried, or maybe I'm in one, maybe I'm not, or maybe I prefer just being single because I don't know what the future is. That will be a close secret till the day I decide for it not to be. Anyways, back on topic. Dating a Vietnamese girl and dating in Vietnam as a whole. Let's talk about a few things that you should know as a Westerner. Let's just say as a foreign teacher, maybe as an American. I'm sure there's a lot of overlapping between American, British, Australian, South American when it comes to how it's going to be. But yeah, let's just jump into it. So I'm just going to name some things that I've noticed, I've seen, I've heard about, witnessed, etc. So let's start with family will always come before you. So when it comes to dating a Vietnamese woman, marrying, also that word dating is a lot different in Vietnam than it is in, say, the West. Dating is, like in America, it means that we take a girl out to a movie. It means like I'm inviting you out to a dinner. We're not a couple. I just want to, see if we're compatible. But dating in Vietnam and a lot of Asian cultures means that you are actually together. It's a lot more intimate of a word. So if you say I'm dating someone or going on a date with somebody, that people will infer that you are in a relationship. So a lot of times they'll go like, I'm going out for coffee with somebody, or I'm hanging out with somebody. That is a common way of how Vietnamese girls will say that they're going on dates or whatever. But we're going to use dating for the sake of my video, so we're going to use my my vocab. Family will always be number one in a Vietnamese woman's heart. At least every Vietnamese woman I've ever met, they'll always tell you the family first, and you can hope to be number two. You can strive to be number two. Family is so important in Vietnam. It is the glue. It's one of the unique things about Vietnam. And yeah, you could argue every country, every culture values family, but Asian cultures and specifically Vietnamese family ties are just. That is a rock solid rule of that is something that you are obligated to respect, to participate in, to honor, and you will have a sense of love and appreciation for those that raised you. And it's common for the grandparents to live with the parents, who live with the children, who might live with their children, and it's a cycle. So while the kids go out to work, the grandparents will watch the kids. And just as when the kids were working, their parents were watching the kids, and everybody is helping each other. I do like the idea that versus like in the West, so any of my Vietnamese or Asian audience, it's common in America, which is very shameful. I hate this practice. sorry to sip while I'm making this video, that we will put our elders, our grandmothers, our grandpas, and stuff like that into these things called nursing homes, which are these paid living assistant buildings where, yeah, you pretty much just drop them off and forget. And you could buy different levels of nursing homes. Some that have activities and group activities, but they're pretty sad. They're depressing. It's a bunch of old people whose families don't want to deal with them. They're either too busy with their careers or their families that they send off their grandma or their grandfathers to these places, and yeah, and you're just waiting for them to die. I will never let that happen to my grandma. Never. Screw that. And I don't respect people who do nursing homes. I just don't. And I've heard all the justifications for it. Well, hey, this person can't take care of themselves, or hey, this person can't do this, or it's too much a strain on the family. And there is a few, exceptions that I'll give to it. Like literally, if somebody is handicapped and they can't even like use the restroom by themselves, then yeah, maybe they do need some kind of assistance. If the family is not able to provide that, maybe financially, or let's say that the parent just has to go to work and they're not home all day, okay, there's going to be exceptions to that. But anyways, that is a common practice in, let's say, just America, that families don't sleep together. Now some do, but generally you don't see grandparents living with the parents. It's expected when you hit 18 as a teenager, you're out. You're out of the house. You're out to forge your own destiny, your own life. And families generally will get together for the holidays. Versus here in Vietnam, families will stay together. And that's actually very hard on the Vietnamese children because they have to balance out their responsibilities to their family, their love life, their career, and yeah, you just have to understand that if you're going to date a Vietnamese girl, that you're not going to be number one in her heart. Her family will be. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a place, number one, number two, that's a subjective term. It's a pointless number. But it is something just to know, though, that, and also, you're going to need to have a very close relationship with her family as well, because her family will become your family. It's going to be expected of you to, participate in family events, to spend time with the family, to help her family. Her family will come visit, and you want that. In my experience, Vietnamese mothers and fathers from that generation, are some of the kindest, nicest, welcoming people. So, but yeah, don't expect to marry or date a Vietnamese girl and have no interaction with her parents. It's just not going to happen. 2, you need to win the heart of her parents. So you are not going to be able to. There, I'm done. And that light is just too bright. 2, you are not going to be able to date, fall in love with, marry a Vietnamese girl unless you get the blessing of her parents, unless her parents approve of you. What are some things that they're looking for? They're looking for maturity. They're looking for stability. They're looking for somebody who is goal oriented, somebody who will be able to provide. And it's not on a superficial level. They're not looking just for some rich guy who's going to be able to. No, it's not like that. They just want to see their daughters live better lives, or not struggle, because to a Vietnamese girl and Vietnam as a whole, a marriage is a very special thing. It's a one-time event that a girl waits her whole life for. And I don't want to speak for all girls, but just from what I've heard from, what I've talked to, what I've learned, this is from a lot of my Vietnamese friends who told me this is that one event in their life that they want to get right, that they look forward to, the family looks forward to. It is a big deal. And you'll see a lot of weddings and marriages on the streets. They'll have the whole blocks, music, DJs, karaoke, 50, 60 people visiting. These are very big deals, very big events, very expensive things. But you need to win the family over. So you can't come to Vietnam as some expat and, hey, I might be here just for a year. Can I date your daughter? Because they're going to be like, no, you might break her heart and leave. You need to show, one, that you have a love of the country, two, that you're able to assimilate into the culture, three, that you have a long-term goal and plan for how you're going to support yourself and her, and also respect. Respect is everything. That you respect your girlfriend or the girl that you're pursuing, and that you respect her family and elders, and that you respect yourself. So, don't be somebody who's drinking. Don't be some fat slob. Don't be, somebody, if you can't respect yourself, how you going to respect, your woman? That's important. Another thing that I recently learned, now this is very old school and very old traditional, is that when it is time to ask if you want to, for a girl to, to have the title. So, I mean, these titles are kind of stupid. Girlfriend, boyfriend, you don't really need them. You could be in a relationship and not need those, but for the sake of, this video, let's say that you want it to be official. You want to be able to say, this is my girlfriend, even though maybe you've been in a relationship for a long time, you love each other, you plan on marrying. But it's common to give gifts to the parents and to ask their permission. So you would bring a gift to the parents. You would ask their permission. This is for marriage too, but to date. And yeah, you would need their blessing. So that is another thing to keep in mind. The next thing about dating a Vietnamese girl is for the first dates generally will be, I've noticed that it's usually going to be, well, I could say it from my tier 4 rural country thing where there's not a lot of spots. There's no Starbucks and malls and amusement parks and stuff like here. So people are limited to coffee houses, not bars, but little karaoke things, restaurants, stuff like that. So most people, it'll be like a coffee or something like that. Maybe go, sit out by a lake or something. Usually not even that though. I mean, I can't speak for how Vietnamese, date. But like my style, like for my idea of dating is, I will like take a girl out on a motorcycle ride. We're gonna go out to a special spot. We're gonna lay a blanket out. Well, first maybe we'll have coffee, play a game of chess, get to know each other. First off, Then I'm gonna ask for her number. I'm gonna ask, tell her that I'd be very happy to to see her again. And the next time I'm gonna surprise her and do something more exciting, which is more of the things that I can offer, But anyways, your first date is usually gonna be something like that. Maybe play a game of chess, drink a coffee, and it's gonna be. And Vietnamese culture is very direct about asking you questions, so very invasive questions. So when I say that, when I say invasive, I mean like very direct. It took me a while to get used to that. People will ask you, "How old are you? Are you married? Do you have children? How much money do you make? Where do you work at? What's your plans for your life? Have you ever been homeless? Blah, 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 whatever." Like people will ask you just whatever's on their mind, and that's just very common. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, by people, just strangers. Do you have a girlfriend? You in a relationship? How old are you? It's like a daily routine. It's just part of how Vietnam is. So, another thing that in my experience, now I have watched interviews firsthand about what Vietnamese women prefer in men. I have asked women. I've just from my own personal experience and from just let's just say that I'm well informed in this. Chivalry, being a gentleman, it does matter. it is not old fashioned. This ain't like America where there's this stupid thing where it's insulting to open a door for a girl and all that stuff. Like, I can't stand that about America, because you know what? In my opinion, like there's nothing wrong with being a gentleman. Any of you, look me in the eyes. Any of you female viewers out there who have a problem with a guy who opens the door for you, or who insists on buying dinner for you for the first time, and you have a problem with that, well, kick rocks, because men don't have much to offer when it comes to what we could do in the beginning. But we want to show our values, and we want to show. It's not about flexing about how much money we make. It's not about showing that we're dominant over you. It's just that we want to do something nice for you. And a lot of Western girls, this is why I'm never going to date another Western girl, just because things are so backwards there. Vietnam, though, is just like normal. It's like normal world here versus upside down land back home. But yeah, be a gentleman. Open the door. Buy that first dinner. Buy that first movie. That is very important. You know what I mean? Like, there should be no circumstance. My personal rule, if I ask a girl on a date, I'm paying every single time. Even though my ideas on relationships is usually like a 50-50 kind of thing, you know. But that's generally once you're, years into it. And I'm speaking more in the sense of like, paying if you're in if you have like a house together and stuff. But in the early stages of your relationship, like if I'm asking a girl out, like I'm paying for it. It's my treat. Now, don't get me wrong. Once you're months in, then yeah, if a girl be like, no, let me buy the ice cream, or it's my turn to pay for the movie. Hey, that's cool. Like you guys have gotten to that level of relationship, which is cute, it's sweet. But in the beginning, be a gentleman, and open the door for her. Pull out her seat. You know what I mean? If she stands up, you stand up. Like, call me old fashioned. But I like that. But also keep in mind, I'm an older guy. So if you're dating some 18-year-old girl, millennial girl, it might be a little bit different. But the kind of girls I like, the kind of girls that I date, late 20s to mid 30s, that kind of age range, is pretty much my ideal. Old enough where they're past the whole superficial stage. But still young enough where they have drive. They're not ambition. Still They're still in the process of self-discovery, just like myself. We both generally will want the same kind of things in life. Another thing that you should be aware of is listen. Listen, okay? Listen. Shut up. Listen. It's not all about you. It's not all about your culture, okay? Like, yeah, if she asks you about your culture, if she asks you about yourself, talk away. But you ask this girl on the date, generally, right? It's usually the guy who will ask the girl. Not all the times, but most of the times, it's you asking. So, you get to know her. Stop talking about your damn self. Part of my language. But she doesn't need to know how many cars you have or how much money you make. She doesn't need to know, how cool you are and how epic you are and how smart you are. Like, just be quiet and listen. Ask her, get to know her, flatter her. And I don't mean that superficially or insincerely, but I mean show her that you are actually interested in learning about her. And that will matter to a Vietnamese girl, in my experience. Now, I'm not generalizing, just from what I've seen, observed, learned, etc. Let's see here. What's another thing? Oh, public displays of affection. In Vietnam, if you are going to date a Vietnamese girl, public displays of affection are now in somewhere like Ho Chi Minh City, down south, where it's very westernized. A lot of Westerners, very dirty in my opinion. I don't like the southern parts because of how much it's been influenced by my country and other Western countries. I like the traditional experience of Vietnam. That's why I live literally on the Vietnamese-China border, like as traditional as you get. Yeah, holding hands or having your girl, arms interlocked, giving hugs, that's great. But making out or, doing all that kind of crazy stuff, in front of a bunch of people is kind of seen as, not very classy. So keep that in mind. In America, yeah, you might see that a lot. You might see people on the beach going full blown, you know what. But here, keep in mind where you're at. Keep in mind, this is not your country. So, another thing, if you're going to date a Vietnamese girl, a really good tip, take the time to learn about her culture. Show her that you actually care enough to try to learn. So learn things about her culture. Learn the history, learn the traditions, learn the customs. You might ask, why is it that I even know some of this stuff that I'm talking about? How is it that I've learned this stuff? What was my motivations, I wonder, for, learning even how to date a Vietnamese girl. Vietnamese girls, not to generalize, let me preference one last time. This is from a combination of me, studying, asking Vietnamese friends, first-hand accounts from friends, stuff like that. So, but yeah, Vietnamese girls on average will appreciate a man who takes time, a Western man, a foreign man who takes time to learn about her culture. And if you could learn her language, that's even bonus points. I wish I could learn Vietnamese. That is a goal of mine. I am slowly picking up on it. I'm noticing that it doesn't even sound foreign to me anymore. Like this morning, I went to go get a bowl of pho, right? And I'm sitting in there, and I hear people speaking Vietnamese in the background, and it sounds like this people to me in my brain registers it like people speaking in English. I can understand certain inflections and certain different words, pauses, the breaks between words. I'm starting to understand more and more, starting to be able to try to get the gist of what some conversations are about. So, but if you could get to a point where you could speak to your girlfriend or your lover, your wife, your romantic interest in her native tongue, I mean, that shows that you respect her, that you love her, that you are, really making an effort to assimilate into her culture. So let me give another point. Oh, yes. This is one of my personal, my personal ways of doing things. It doesn't have to be for everybody, but don't change who you are in the sense of what makes you you, the core values of what makes you you. For example, stuff like this, right? Like my wall of art over there. I'm an artist, or I love movies, I love books, I love motorcycles, I'm not going to change that for nobody. I'm not going to change that, throw on a tie and a business suit just to try to look like I have money. I'm not going to cut my hair, which I get told that I should do every day. Indy, you should cut your hair, you'd be more handsome. Or, just because every guy, or 99% of guys here have short hair, or it's seen as, more professional, or that you have more wealth. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. There's a difference, being true to yourself, but also adapting and assimilating into a new culture. So, for me, motorcycles, art, but motorcycles, that was a big thing. And when it came to my hair, I'll never forget, me and my dad, before I left, when I came here to Vietnam, had a huge argument. And the day I was leaving, I had longer hair at the time. And he told me, oh, if you go to Vietnam with long hair, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. No one's going to respect you. This is, Vietnam, people don't look like you, or don't style their hair like that. It's, you'll be frowned upon. And no disrespect, Dad, if you watch this, but yeah, he was wrong. He was wrong. I ended up cutting my hair for the first time ever. If you look back at my first YouTube videos here in Vietnam, my hair was cut. But once I realized that no, it's not like that. There is long hair here. You could look like that, and I actually enjoy having my own unique style. Um, I think that's kind of what part of my charm. If I was gonna say I'm handsome, it's an unconventional handsome. I might not be handsome in the sense of what um, most guys are, but I think there's things about me that are unique that I'm proud of. I like my jawline, for example. I like my facial structures. I like the color of my eyes. I like my hair. Things like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I also have things that I'm insecure about, things that I want to improve on. I'm not